This isn't really the best time right now. I'm in the middle of a calc exam.
Tim, are you talking to yourself again?
No, not at all. I'll catch you guys in a second.
Man, I just find it so weird that our big calculus exams are on the 3rd of each month. Hopefully I did better on this one compared to the last one. Couldn't be all tied up like Katie Heron. On this episode of the Mitten Players, I had the opportunity to chat with English Bernhardt, a North Carolina and New York City based actress. Her credits span from many different shows, including Next to Normal, Les Mis, Legally Blonde, and the first national tour of It Then. She was then recently a standby for the first national tour of Mean Girls, before transitioning to the principal role as the fearless Katie Heron. Would you care to introduce yourself to our viewers?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is English Bernhardt. I most recently played Katie Heron on the Mean Girls first national tour. And yeah, I'm excited to chat with you today.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get your start in theater?
Yes, of course. So I am a North Carolina native. I'm a Southern gal. I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, and grew up performing there. I come from a very musical family. Both my parents sing. My mom was a pageant queen and sang all throughout that career. My dad plays the piano. My brother also sings, so we used to joke that we were kind of the Von Trapp family singers. So lots of music always around the house. Grew up in ballet very young, and was really fortunate because in Raleigh, where I grew up, there's an amazing regional theater called North Carolina Theater and a training base that feeds into that called the North Carolina Theater Conservatory. So I did my first show professionally with North Carolina Theater when I was 8, and that was The Music Man. I played Amaryllis. And then after that, I kind of got bit by the bug and didn't stop. So after school, when everyone else would go to soccer practice, I would go to voice lessons and acting classes and continued dance. And yeah, just kind of couldn't get enough and continued to do lots of shows at North Carolina Theater all throughout my high school years.
That's awesome. What
Yeah.
would you say is your favorite show experience or your favorite show you've been a part of?
Yeah, I love this question. And I love that you use the word experience because that's exactly what this was. And that would be when right after I graduated from high school, I got the opportunity to audition for a workshop of an untitled musical at the time. It literally was called the Untitled Pasek Paul Levinson Project. And you have to understand, when I was growing up, I was very much a theater nerd, but we weren't as involved with social media and technology as we are all now. So I didn't really know what a workshop was. I didn't know those names of the people attached. Whereas I feel like now everyone's on Broadway World and Playbill and is so in the know with things. But at the time, I really didn't know what any of that meant, but just knew that it seemed like a good opportunity. So I auditioned, I got cast. Come to find out, what I now know is it was a workshop for the show that then became Dear Evan Hansen and Pasek Paul Levinson are the last names of the writers of the book and the music. Benj Pasek, Justin Paul, and Stephen Levinson. And it was one of the most incredible experiences I've ever been a part of because I did the workshop, which means like the early stages of them writing the show, putting the show together, making changes, getting the script the way that they want it. And then I did the lab, which was the next step. So just a little bit longer, more presentations for producers. But even though these were really, really early days with the show, the cast was incredibly similar to the cast that stayed with it until it opened on Broadway. So Ben Platt was there, Will Roland was there, Jennifer Lara Thompson, Rachel Bay Jones. And so just immediately, as you can imagine, being in a room with those people, I knew there was a lot of magic happening and just felt so lucky to be in that room and to be able to see how it all works, how they would lower the key for some parts. And if Ben said, this feels weird in my voice, they change it and tailor it to him. I had never done something like that. When I would do a show at North Carolina Theater, it was just like, we're doing the production of Annie, and that's that. It was established. So to be a part of this and in the room as they were creating it and making changes, it's such an exciting process. And then to see how successful the show became, I just feel so lucky to have been a very small part of it. So that is probably my favorite show experience that I have done.
As someone who was a big Dear Evan Hansen fan all the way back
Yes.
in middle school, that's incredible. It really is.
It was incredible. And I think it was even more surreal because I was so unaware. I went in so blind. So then to just be there and be so happy to be there, but then witness such talent from the actors as well as the creatives, I was just completely blown away. And my love of theater just like exploded exponentially because I just wanted to keep doing that and new works. And being a part of a new show is very rare. So people kill to be a part of a new show and an original Broadway cast and all of those things. So to be able to have the opportunity so early on in my career, I also didn't realize at the time was such a big deal and something I now do not take for granted. Um, but it was incredible. It was so neat, and the people were so wonderful. So I think that's another reason why I had such a great experience. People that I still have really wonderful relationships with. But it was just cool. It gave me another look inside the industry in a way that I didn't know yet.
What are some like dream shows or roles that you'd love to be a part of?
Well, this is actually an amazing segue because of Jeremy Hansen, I actually kind of had a unique experience with it top to bottom. So, like I was saying before, it was such an unbelievable experience. It was also my first kind of theater heartbreak as a professional, if you will, because I fell in love with it so fast. And when I was in it, I was a part of the ensemble. There were four of us. There were two females and two males, and we covered the principals. And when they decided to do their out of town tryout before coming to Broadway, they cut the ensemble. And now looking back, it was absolutely the right choice. The show didn't need it. It's a small, intimate show, and that's what serves it the best. But of course, I was devastated to no longer be a part of it. And I continued on a little bit. They asked me to record some of the backing tracks. So funny enough, if you listen to like the deluxe album, I'm on the album, and I continued to audition for it for years because I was kind of in the mix, but it just never quite worked out. I like kind of fell between the cracks of being the girl. I kind of look like a Zoe, but myself, English personality wise, I'm a little bit more of an Alana. And so it just never worked out. So to feed into your question, that is kind of a dream show of mine because I don't feel like I really got the closure that I would have loved to have had. So now that they're just starting to do it places, I am on my agents like there is no tomorrow. They just announced the Munis next season, and the Muni is
Oh,
doing
that
it
as
this
well.
summer. And so I emailed my agents today and said, hello, would be incredibly special to close this chapter and play this show and do this role somewhere. So I'm really manifesting it, but that is a show that's been on my list for a while just because I love it so much and to just have a little bit more closure, like I said. Um, I would kill to play Cherry Valance in The Outsiders. That is a current dream role in terms of a show that is on Broadway right now that I love. Um, it's funny. I feel like Wicked is a little bit on every theater kid's bucket list in one way or another. And it's like, I'd kind of do any of them. I do Nessa, I do Glinda, I do Elphaba. Do I know if I could sing that show 8 times a week as Elphaba? I don't know. But Wicked just feels there's something so nostalgic about Wicked. So in a way, that's kind of always been on the back of my mind. And then aside from that, I would love to play Elle Woods one day somewhere. I think Legally Blonde is a perfectly written musical. I am obsessed with the movie, but I think the show is so, so good. The music is so good. I think I'm still a little bit young for it, but would love to play Elle Woods one day. And then aside from that, like I said, everybody wants to create something new, do something new, but it's hard. That's like a dime a dozen, but that's always on the dream list.
You got into Harvard Law?
What, like it's hard?
What, like it's hard?
Yeah, exactly. Well done. Well done.
Yeah, somewhere along those lines.
That was excellent.
Weren't you in Legally Blonde at one point?
You have an amazing memory. I was in Legally Blonde at North Carolina Theater when I was young. I was in the ensemble and I was
Ah,
Adele Canoe's sister. So I was very young. But even then, I was obsessed with it. I wasn't quite old enough to really be any of the girls, Margot, Serena, Elle. But I have done it. So I can tell you that I do love it. Would love to do it again.
Friendly reminder, we just posted an episode about that a couple weeks back, so if y'all want to check that out, just
Check that out.
that's what's up.
Shameless plug.
What was the first Broadway show you've experienced?
The first Broadway show I saw was The Lion King. I haven't seen it since then. And oh gosh, I mean, that was probably 20 years ago at this point, which is crazy, crazy, crazy. But yeah, I came with my parents. I was very young. It is such a magical experience, and it is something that I think everyone should see. And I'm honestly feeling like I should revisit because just the way that it is done, I don't want to give it away to any listeners, but the masks, the music that's so iconic, visually it is so stunning. And it's just, I mean, there's a reason that it hasn't closed for this long, right?
Right.
So it made a huge impact on me and I loved it. And yeah, I think it's kind of timeless. You can never go wrong with Lion King.
My first show was ironically also The Lion King, but
Oh,
I was like maybe 3 or 4 when I first saw it.
no way.
Yeah, I was an infant.
Baby. No
Yeah,
wonder
and
you love theater. You got so early, you got hooked.
I didn't even realize I was at a show at the time. We were like in, I don't know, Columbus, Ohio, and no, it was either I want to say my first Broadway show was a touring production of The Lion.
Sure.
Because
Good
like
for your parents bringing an infant to the theater. I would be so scared that you would have a crying fit and I'd have to take you out.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
I
They're like,
mean,
he'll be fine. He loves theater.
at the time I didn't really know what was going on, so maybe
Maybe.
it might have slipped my mind. But yes, I would love to revisit that show if it ever comes. I think it's coming back to
I think it is.
I
I
think
know
it
the
is
tour is
too.
still going. I've had a girlfriend kind of in and out of the tour and the Broadway company for a while. But I mean, if they're ever like doing something on Good Morning America or you see a video they posted, it still sounds so good. It looks so
It
good.
really is.
It just like really stands the test of time, in my opinion.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the Jimmy Awards?
Yes, of course, of course. So I didn't mention it yet, but the Jimmy Awards is actually what led me to that opportunity with Dear Evan Hansen workshop. So I owe a lot to the Jimmy Awards, but it's funny. Um, if I'm being completely honest with you, my mother is the one that came to me because she heard about the Jimmy Awards. This was when I was a senior in high school. And, she said, I read about this thing and it's a local competition. And then whoever wins your local competition goes on to nationals. It's in New York and it seems like a really great opportunity. And I could not have shut it down faster. I was so against it. I just was very much in the senioritis world and ready to graduate and be done. And, was like, Mom, enough. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing any competitions. Like, I already figured out my college plan. I'm good. And like any good mom, she didn't take no for an answer and kind of gave me a little shove. And of course, like most moms are, she was so right. So I was fortunate enough to be one of the winners of my local competition, North Carolina. A male and a female win from each not, I think sometimes it's a couple from every state, but from your competition. And then you go on to compete in the Jimmy Awards, and the Jimmy Awards are the New York National Awards. And it is really, really intense, and I think has even gotten more so as the years have gone on. Because it was the first time I had been around so many other kids my age that were just as talented and just as passionate as I was, if not more so. And it is tough, but it also is an invaluable lesson because it's very easy to feel like a big fish in a small pond when you're kind of your local star, if you will. But everybody has those, and kids are talented everywhere. And it just goes to show you how much talent is out there. And not only that, yes, you need to keep training and step up your game, but also that you need to tap into who you are and what makes you unique, because that is what will separate you from everyone else. And I think that's what is so great about the Jimmy Awards coming when it does, and working with high school kids, is because I feel like those are such formative years that it's very common for kids to, I don't want to say mimic other actors, but there's so much at your fingertips now in terms of performances, bootlegs, all kinds of things that you can kind of mimic, mirror, intimidate those performances in a way, which is not always all bad, but you can easily get lost in, I think, trying to be like someone else. When in reality, what I have learned as I have gotten older is that being your truest self is the best thing that you can possibly do. So that was a beautiful thing I took from the Jimmy Awards. But so it's crazy. It's like a pressure cooker of a week, and you rehearse starting at like 7 a.m. And when I did it, we were at the NYU dorms. So you all stay in these dorms, and your roommates with someone that you don't know that won from their local competition in another state, and you just hope you guys get along. And you rehearse really early, and then you take a lunch break, and there would be a speaker or a casting director or a Broadway actor come and talk. And then we rehearse in the afternoon, and then throughout the week there's various things like little auditions here and there that determine the medley groups and solos and various things as the week goes on. But it's really intense because, like I said, you're in high school, so you want to be liked by everyone, you want to be friends, but you also want to win. But it's like, it's just
Like,
it's
where's the balance in this?
where's the balance? Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's an incredible opportunity, but it's also just a theater competition. You know what I mean? So it's like you want
Mhm.
to take it seriously, but also not crack under the pressure. Um, and so I had a wonderful, wonderful experience with it. I really did. Everyone was so kind. I still keep in touch with a lot of people that I did it with. And then one of the casting directors who saw me perform in the Jimmys is the one that thought I might be good for Jeremy Hansen and pitched me for that project, is how I got that audition, which I also love, love, love to remind people that I did not win the Jimmy Awards. I was not even a finalist for the Jimmy Awards. And so that does not mean that you will not be noticed and seen and have your moment to shine, because I know a lot of kids, as I now went back this past year as a coach, are very much in the mindset of it's over. I might as well go home. Very bummed if they don't get selected as a finalist, when in reality, that is not the
It's
case
really
at all.
just the beginning to their
It's just
career.
the beginning, and you've been there for a week. They've been watching you all week, and it's more about the exposure and the experience and the life lessons on top of whatever else may come out of it. So it was an incredible experience. And then I've actually worked on it a few years now in different ways, but I assisted Keisha the Lalama, the choreographer, for a few years after. And then this past year, like I said, was asked to be a coach, which was so, so special. Because I just felt very honored that they trusted me with those kids in this opportunity, but also it was very important to me to just explain to them that I knew what they were going through, that I had been there. And I just kept thinking, if I would have had a coach that had done this, how would that have kind of calmed my nerves? So it was so wonderful. And honestly, that is the future of theater, are those group of kids. So I said this to all of the kids that I coached, but I mean it, that I cannot wait to perform together one day. I know we all will. You'll see them all, their name in lights. So it's exciting. It's also it's inspiring. And a friend of mine, Stephen Telsey, who competed in the Jimmy Awards with me our year, was also coach this year. And he and I got coffee one morning before we had rehearsal, and we're just saying how special it was for us too to just kind of be re-inspired and have that flame relit again, because the kids are so hungry for it and passionate. And when you move to New York and you're trying to pay rent, you lose a little bit of that. So I am grateful to the Jimmy Awards in so many ways. But it's an unbelievable opportunity, and I wish every town could do it and every kid could go, because, there's still cities out there that their schools don't participate. And it just feels like such a shame, because it's an unbelievable platform and exposure for them, and just very much the future of our industry.
For you to start at the Jimmy Awards and
Yes.
now this past year coaching really brought you full circle, hasn't it?
It did. It was so special. And I knew it would be wonderful, but it was so much more rewarding than I could have even realized, like I said, because I knew I would enjoy it and it would be special to just experience their talent, but I didn't realize how much it would affect my own life and career, and mindset towards the craft. So it was so beautifully full circle. And then to sit in the audience and watch them, just to go to the Jimmy Awards is always incredible, but to then have coached them, I mean, I felt like a proud parent. I was like so nervous for them. I was screaming. It was so special.
So, a lot of people know Mean Girls as a cult classic, though there are people who haven't heard or seen the musical. Detroit is actually getting another taste of the show in a few weeks. So, I feel like it makes sense to talk about it in this case. Also, Mean Girls Day, October 3rd, pretty
I
recent.
mean, we must. We absolutely must.
Absolutely must. As someone who was in the show, could you give us a sense of the plot, whether or not they've seen the movie? What can people expect?
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely okay if you have seen the movie, seen the musical, not seen anything. I really think it's a show that is very relatable for all. It is essentially about a new girl that she and her family live in Africa. Her parents are there for work and they moved to Chicago. And until then, she has been homeschooled. So this is her first experience in a new school, and she is trying to find her place. She's trying to fit in. She's trying to find her friend group. She's trying to figure out boys and relationships and crushes. And like most high schools, there are cliques and groups, and there are nice people and there are mean girls, and you don't want to get caught up with the wrong group. And high school can be tough and is for a lot of us. So it is just a story about this very innocent, somewhat naive girl trying to find her way, and then ultimately learning the hard way what is important, and which is staying true to yourself and the friends that are your real friends and love you for who you are and don't try to change you. And yeah, it also ties in a lot of stuff that is unfortunately very relevant today, like bullying and cyberbullying and social media. And so that is what I think is so amazing about Mean Girls, is because it has been along for quite some time. It still rings true today, and maybe even more so with Instagram and TikTok and people hiding behind screens to say mean comments. So it just is a nice reminder of what is important and how to not get wrapped up in all of those things, and how the way people show themselves in their lives on internet and on the internet is not real and not a representation of who they really are in life. So it's really good. It's a comedy, it's a love story. Like any good show has highs and lows. And what's really great about the musical is it adds this musical element that just kind of gives you a deeper look into the characters and moves the plot in a really fun way that makes it very fun to follow. So yeah, I'm certainly biased, but I think it is a show that everyone can enjoy. Also because high school or not, I mean, people have a hard time fitting in everywhere. A new job as an adult, you move, you're trying to become friends with your neighbors in your community. I would argue it's harder to become friends and make new friends as an adult because it's just difficult. You're not in a bubble like you are at school where you share a class and can work on homework together. So it just is a reminder of, not falling into peer pressure and not letting that overwhelming need and desire to fit in cloud your judgment.
For sure. The show has everything you can ask for, but it's also a very good reminder.
Yeah, it
Be kind
is.
to one another.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fun and it's a show that you'll leave feeling good. It's not a heavy 3 hour Les Mis, that feels a little draining and dark.
Right. Favorite line from the movie or the show?
Okay, this is from the show, but it's also from the movie, and I love the line. I also love the whole moment, which is Danny DeVito, I love your work.
Evil.
Hey, get out of here!
Oh my God, Danny DeVito, I love your work!
Obsessed. Second favorite would be She Doesn't Even Go Here.
She doesn't even go here.
Classic.
Who would be your gender swap character?
Oh man. Probably Kevin G. It just seems like such a fun track. He gets to be this like kind of nerdy, funny, swagger, cool guy who thinks he's cooler than he is in school. And then he has this awesome rap number when they throw the party in Act Two, and then he wins the mathletes competition. So probably Kevin G.
Definitely Katie, Janice, and or Regina for sure. I mean, why not?
I mean, it's amazing. Like, it's one of those things that you hate Regina, but also everybody secretly loves her. And you also kind of want to be her, right?
Right.
It's so fun to be the villain.
Favorite character you've played throughout your experience with the show?
Ooh, that's so hard. So I started Mean Girls as the standby for Katie Heron, Regina George, and Janice Sarkeesian. So I have played all three of them. And I honestly love different things about all three. But to answer your question, the short answer is the most fun to play was probably Janice because Janice is so not me and not my type but that role, vocally it sat in a good spot for me and she has really funny lines so the audience loves her so you feel like you're being rooted for the whole time. The costumes are really comfortable just in talking logistics. And again, it just was kind of liberating to like be in this crazy wig and dark eyeliner and clothes that just feel so different than who I am as a person. Regina was also so fun because I never, ever, ever play the mean girl. But Regina is a hard part and she is a hard sing. And you have to be this kind of stone cold James Bond looking perfect all the time. So that is tough. And Katie is hard because it's a stamina beast. She doesn't leave the stage, she doesn't stop talking, she doesn't stop singing. It's less about you have to nail the one song like for Regina and World Burn and more that you have to maintain for 2.5 hours for the whole show and keep people engaged and keep the company alive and keep the story going. So they all had their moments and they all taught me so much as a performer. But in terms of most fun, like most comfortable, lowest stress, most fun because you get good laughs and also everybody cheers for them at the end, probably Janice.
Okay, story time. Talk
Okay.
to us about your recent experience with Cancun.
Oh my gosh. This was so crazy. Okay, so for people that don't know, I teach online through a platform called Broadway Plus that really started for me primarily in the pandemic when everything was shut down and people couldn't go to their after school programs and voice lessons. People could take lessons with people through Broadway Plus on Zoom. And it was really incredible just in providing a way to still have an outlet to be creative and train in that way. So, and for me as well, because Mean Girls was shut down. So I was so grateful to have something to still work on in the world to get me still excited about performing, when it felt like it was very bleak there for a little bit. But they have now expanded. So they still offer online coachings and Q&As and things like that, but they also do events now. And so I got an email a couple months ago asking if I would be interested in going on this trip to Cancun, Mexico to perform for a Mean Girls themed concert through Broadway Plus. And it was going to be me and a couple other performers that have done Mean Girls, and that we would do a concert and we stay for a week and you stay at this all-inclusive resort. And that's kind of all the information that I got. So it was kind of crazy because I didn't really know exactly what I was walking into, but it felt like, how could I possibly say no? This sounds amazing. So we got there. It ended up being myself, Eric Huffman, who played Damien on the tour with me. He was as Damien. I was there as Katie. Olivia Kaufman, who was Janice full time right before the show closed, she was there as our Janice. Zurin, who was a part of the actual original Broadway company, was there as Karen. And it's funny, Olivia and Zurin kind of tag teamed Gretchen together as well because they both like covered her in ways. So we kind of had a makeshift Gretchen. And then Ashley De La Rosa was our Regina, who was the standby on Broadway. So that was really cool because we all kind of knew who each other was, but had never performed all together. Like Eric and I had done it together on tour, and I think a couple of the girls had crossed over a little bit on Broadway, but not much. So to all be together and swap stories of all of our different productions of the show was really fun. And basically, we rehearsed for the big kind of event, which was the concert, but we also did a pink pool party the day before at this resort. We're all wearing pink swimsuits. We taught the people staying at the resort watching Jingle Bell Rock, and we wore pink Santa hats. And we did a little teaser to kind of promote the concert, encourage people to come to the concert. And again, this concert was for people staying at the resort. So we just had no idea what we were going to get. Like, would it be 10 people? Would it be 200 people? Do these people know Mean Girls, or do they just like think it's the nightly activity? So on the last night, we did this concert and it was incredible. I mean, it felt like Mean Girls rock version. We were on this huge stage in this huge like conference arena room, microphones, crazy sound system, and we are all big Broadway beltresses. So we are like rocking the walls of this place. And they flew in musicians from New York who sounded unbelievable. So we all just laughed because it sounded incredible. And the people that came to see it probably had no idea what they were seeing. So we kind of joked that it was more for us to just have fun and sing our faces off and revisit old Mean Girl stuff.
Just
But
spread the word to all of these
exactly,
people who, yeah.
it was just a cool opportunity. And to be completely honest with you, um, why this resort wanted to have a Mean Girls Day thing is still unknown to me. I don't know if they just have someone that runs the hotel that likes Mean Girls or what. But we felt very lucky to be there. And it ended up being so much fun, so successful. And like I said, so many of us hadn't done the show in so long. It was this very fun trip down memory lane. And now we're all friends and have this funny story of like, remember when we did that thing together in Mexico and like saying Mean Girls stuff on the like at the resort and the pool party, and it was crazy, but it was really fun to sing it all again. And I wasn't sure if it was just going to be like everybody sing one song and be done. We basically did a full concert version, top to bottom. Like I sang a Roars and Stupid with Love and Apex Predator, and we did the whole thing. So it was pretty epic. And a lot of these people probably only spoke Spanish and didn't understand a word of what we were saying, but you know what? No problem. No problem.
No, that's for sure. And I bet the after party was something else for sure.
Oh my gosh, it was a time. It was so random and so bizarre, but it was just one of those things that you're like, it makes for a great story. You got to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any like general pre-show rituals?
It depends on the show and it depends on the role. In terms of specifics, like when I was doing Katie, I went to physical therapy Saturday morning every week to lead up into that hefty four-show weekend. So I was really rigid about that. When I was a standby, I didn't do PT as much because, to be honest, I wanted to like save that for the people in the show every night, and also because I wasn't using my voice as much, not singing every night. The biggest thing for me, I think, is the warm up. I am so rigid about a good vocal warm up. I am also a social butterfly. So when I took over for Katie, I literally had my sweet, sweet star dresser made a sign that said, Katie is studying for her calculus exam. Please come back later. And when I would start my vocal warm ups, she would put the sign on the door because if not, people would come in and sit on my couch and we would chat and then they would call 15 minutes till the show and I wouldn't have warmed up and would panic. So that is very important to me that like a slow, really thorough vocal warm up. I did a physical warm up. I like to get some sort of exercise in during the day before, but again, I wasn't dancing in Mean Girls, so a lot of the dancers did a way more thorough vocal warm up than I did. But I would say the only other thing that's kind of unique that I'm sure you've heard from lots of people, but I am one of those girls that through my voice teacher will sing through a straw to warm up. Have you heard of people doing that?
Yeah, I've heard of that technique.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of that, especially if you're feeling a little vocally tired. It's just such a gentle way to kind of wake your voice up. So big sing through a straw girl, good vocal warm up, a ton of water. Um, and exactly, always water. Some physical therapy in there. But in terms of the other rituals and things, it's really more about like just getting your body in the best possible setup to go into the show. Like not eating a heavy meal or not eating so close to the show or drinking a Diet Coke that's gonna give you acid reflux and make you burp and who knows what. So again, it varies on the role. I'm sure I'll have others that are more physically less demanding and less vocally demanding. So it just shifts, but I think giving myself the proper time is what's most important. I'm kind of a routine girl. So you got to stick to it.
I I'm a little guilty of that myself because I belted out like a couple songs from American Idiot on the way to an audition a few days ago. And I will admit my voice was just a little dry before the audition, but I
Yep.
just drank some water and I was just like, nah, I'll be
It's
fine.
fine. It's
But
fine.
no, that's it's very important to
But
keep
it's
your voice up.
hard. Right. It's tough though. There's a fine line because I would say on Mean Girls, I got a little obsessive about it. And again, I was playing a very long game, trying to sustain for a year-long tour. But there are some days where, if you don't get a full 20-minute warm up, it's okay. Like if you're singing something that's lower in your range, you know your body and it's okay. But I got to a place that was like, no, 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 no. I have to warm up. I have to do this or it's not going to go well. And it gets a little panicky. So it's a fine line. You find the balance, but you know your body. You know it's best.
I've asked this question to a few actors and a few creative members in the industry, but I especially would love to know your take on this after the Jimmy Awards.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to inspiring actors on the autism spectrum who would like to take theater to the next level, whether it be on a professional level or not?
Yeah, that's an amazing, amazing question. I would say, what's really tough about this is that when you're young and growing up, you're at the mercy of your surroundings for a lot of it. It's not so much in your control, which is really challenging. So I think my biggest thing I would say is not to let that deter you. Even if your program or community theater or whatever you can get your hands on in terms of a performing um, platform area program has not had an actor with autism or done a show with someone with disabilities or just opened up that realm to their program before, do not let that deter you and think that, okay, I can't or I shouldn't, because if anything, that means they need it even more and should be challenged to be equipped to have shows that support that and have actors of all abilities and disabilities and autism and all of the above. And I think I would also just say that to A, not be discouraged, not let it hold you back, but also to do the research and see the amazing work that has been done to use that to inspire you and also challenge those programs to say, look, hey, I know that you have not done this, but look at Deaf West. Look at these productions that we have, deaf people and sign language and actresses in wheelchairs, and this production we just had, How to Dance in Ohio, on Broadway with the majority of cast members with autism, and it was an incredibly successful Broadway production, which is the peak, the climax of the career. So I think just use those also as a tool to inspire yourself that you can do it, they've done it, they're paving the way, but also to use that with these programs to say, hey, this is proof that it can be done, it should be done, and this is the work that we need to be doing to keep progressing forward, because theater should be inclusive to all and truly all. But unless you have programs and directors that are willing to take risks and try new things, then we're just going to be at a standstill. So I think, again, the thing that is so beautiful about theater is that it is such an inclusive community, but we can always do better. We can always grow. Theater is very much in that boat. So for people with autism, it feels like this How to Dance in Ohio was scraping the surface and we're moving in the right direction, but we still have a long way to go. So I would tell the people that are in that boat, we need their voices more than ever, and to just keep going, because like we need it. We need those people. We need them on Broadway. We need the representation, and these people have paved the way, but we can't stop there.
Absolutely. Yeah. More versatility, more of this.
Absolutely. More versatility for so many reasons, because then like everyone can see themselves up there. It's like them finally coming out with
Absolutely.
Barbies of different skin tones. It's like, hello? Yes, this is what we need. So we need all children to be inspired and everyone feel like they can see themselves to continue to pursue their dreams, especially in an industry as hard as theater. The last thing you need is to feel beat down because you don't feel like there's a place for you there before you even try.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
You don't need to worry about being so perfect. I grew up very much a perfectionist. Still kind of am, but have let go of that a little bit. So to just, yeah, that doesn't matter as much. It's okay if you don't hit every note perfectly and get every show and do all the things. I also tried to be, just as a young person, not even necessarily as a performer, I wanted to do it all. I wanted to be on the track team and also the homecoming court and also the lead of the show. And you can't do it all because then you're spread too
And do
thin.
it all.
No, and then you're not great at one thing. You're just okay at everything. So I think I would say worry less about being a people pleaser and being liked by everyone, and just do what you love and what you want to do. And that was theater then, and I knew it, but I was a little scared to kind of go all in on it. Um, so I think that, and also I would just be like, girl, you're gonna be okay. You're doing it. I would give her some encouragement. I just think back on When I was auditioning and pushing myself really, really hard. I mean, I even think about that today. Like, how in the world did we get up, go to school? I would go to track practice, then I would go to play practice, and then I would go home and do my homework. It's just, you pack so much in a day and you're stressed about your grades and all the things, but it all works out how it's supposed to. It all does. And I remember when I was so stressed about college and whether or not I should go or move to New York, and it all works out how it's supposed to. And I know that's cheesy and so corny, but it is true. And sometimes it takes a minute to see it. That's certainly how it was with that Dear Evan Hansen experience. It took me a minute to see it, and then I finally realized, oh no, I needed this heartbreak. I needed to feel the rejection. This was a major growing experience, and it works out how it's supposed to. But I would also just say, keep going. Like the early days training fundamentals is huge. That is something, as I look back, I wish I would have done a little bit more. I feel like I was very fortunate to have the ability to sing really early on, that I have parents that sing. I think it was just in my genes a little bit. So I just kind of got thrown into it, but I didn't really crack down on proper technique until I was much older. And it's a lot harder to break those habits when they've formed for 20 years. So if I could change something, it would probably be that. But at the end of the day, I'm so grateful for how my life and career has gone, highs and lows, that it's kind of like, it's all part of the story, right? You gotta just,
It's all part of the moment.
that's right. You
Everything
just
just falls right into place.
enjoy the ride, and the bad days and the rejections, there's always a new day. You have to have thick skin and believe in yourself and just keep going, because you will get a yes. It'll come.
Motivational. We love to see it.
Yes.
Yeah. If there's anything you would like to share, I like to ask what's next for you.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, I'm hoping it's going to be that show we were kind of chatting about. I'm not totally sure how much I can share about it. Not to be, I hate it when people do that. That's like, I have an announcement, but I can't talk about it. That is truly a pet peeve of mine. The only reason I don't know is because I genuinely don't know. I haven't like been back in the room since. I don't know. I know that it has been announced in the season, but like the casting is not announced. So that's the only reason why I'm saying that. But I'm hoping that. So a workshop that I have done in the past with some country music writers, they are doing at Bucks County Playhouse in the new year in Pennsylvania. And I'm really hoping to be a part of that. And then I'm really manifesting being in Dear Evan Hansen at the Muni. So any good vibes you can send my way.
Hashtag English for Zoe.
That's right. Get it going.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Where can we find you on social media?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram. I'm so lame and I am not on TikTok. I think a lot of bootlegs of me are on TikTok, but I am truly, like I said, an old soul grandmother. But you can find me on Instagram. Absolutely. My tag is eBernhardt. And yeah, would love to connect and post lots of fun things like random Mean Girls Cancun concerts and, all that good stuff, the life of a theater actress. But yeah, would love to connect.